Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of UA Eats. I'm UA, and today we are not in New York City or New Jersey. Today we are in beautiful New Haven, Connecticut, really historical city and home of Yale University. Now today I was craving burgers, so we impulsively decided to drive all the way up here from New Jersey to New Haven to get burgers because there's one burger place that I always wanted to try. The place right behind me, the famous Louis Lunch, or is it pronounced Louis Lunch? Locals, please correct me. And yeah, this place has been around for a while, as long as pretty much more than most restaurants in the US, since 1895. Now, besides how cool the building looks, what makes Louis Lunch really special is, while there's lots of places you can get a good burger, Louis Lunch claims to be the place that invented the hamburger back in the late 1800s. Of course, there are lots of competing claims. A lot of people claim that other places invented it first, but they claim to be one of the first people who decided to put Hamburg steak between buns, or in this case, not between buns, between just bread, and they still do it the old-fashioned way here. They still serve hamburgers between toast rather than the hamburger buns that we know today. Now, Louis Lunch, I did my research online, and you know, there's a lot of mixed reviews about this place. Some people say that it is indeed pretty epic and one of the best burgers you're ever gonna eat, while some other people think that, you know, it's a little bit overhyped at this point. They say that the burger, the patty is quite average and it's more about the experience and the history. We're gonna find out the truth, as we always do on this channel. So we're gonna eat at this historical place, see if it's worth the hype, and, you know, soak in the atmosphere. So let's go check it out. That's the entrance. Okay guys, so we are inside Louis Lunch, or is it Louis Lunch? One or the other, I'm not a local, and really cool atmosphere here. Just sitting here, this wooden wall already looks really old. Now this place is from like 1898, I believe was the year, and it almost looks like this wood is almost as old as the restaurant, if not as old. And if you look at the machines that they use, the machines are also stamped with 1898, so very cool that they're still using the same machines allegedly that they used when they opened. And the way that they make the burgers here is, rather than grill them on a grill top, they put everything into these open flame machines, what could be custom-made open flame machines, to like kind of lick the patties on all sides, cooking them almost the way a caveman would. And if you look behind me, this place, we're even what I thought was past the peak time, we're past 1 o'clock, it's actually almost 2 o'clock now. And if you look behind, it's just so crowded, this place. Like, you know, we were lucky to get a seat. Now, it may look crowded and it may look like it's hard to get a seat, but the lucky thing is that the wait is really long. Like, we got here at around 1 o'clock and we didn't get our food until like 1:45-ish or 1:50 or whatever time it is now. So it's like a 30 to 45 minute wait. So in that time period, people are bound to come and go. So don't be too intimidated by the line because it's gonna move and seats are gonna open up. After our long wait though, enough chat, let's take a look at the food. And they only offer really 2 things here. They offer hamburger and they offer cheeseburger. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Not exactly a robust menu, right? Not exactly Cheesecake Factory or Top's Diner. That's pretty much all they got. Just hamburgers and cheeseburgers, so pick your poison, right? And the hamburger and the cheeseburger don't really look that different, except for the fact that the cheeseburger just has like a thin layer of cheese on the bottom there. That's the only thing that differentiates it. To be honest though, I don't mind the smaller menu. I don't mind the lack of options because smaller menus are often the way to go. That means that that they're really specializing and not master of none, jack of all trades, like the restaurant that I tend to reference a lot, Cheesecake Factory. I know some of you guys take issue with me mentioning Cheesecake Factory all the time. It's not because I'm a big fan of Cheesecake Factory, it's just, I don't know, for some reason when I think of a restaurant with a ton of menu items, I think of Cheesecake Factory. I don't know why. My opinion of Cheesecake Factory is generally neutral. I guess there's only 2 items on the menu, so I guess let's try the burger without cheese first. So this is the hamburger. Oh, and shoot, I forgot to mention something. They also only have 1 doneness here. You can't request a doneness. No medium, medium well, or well done here. They only have medium rare. So if that's a turnoff for you, or you're like immunocompromised or something, you know, something that's really important to point out. But yeah, so definitely a more rare burger than I am even accustomed to. You know, I don't necessarily mind some less doneness and some rareness, but it's looking pretty interesting. The meat is looking pretty juicy. Everything looks pretty fresh, you know? So fresh that it hasn't been cooked much. So let's take a bite of the hamburger first.
Because the university, or do you want to walk around here or you?
Whoa. No, really interesting.
Here.
So I don't know how to explain this. The burger both doesn't taste rare and does taste rare at the same time. Like, you definitely kind of taste that more rare beef texture. Like some parts of it even taste on the raw end. Like they almost have like that
fell off the truck last week. Oh, we scooped it right up.
Oh, yeah.
Look at her, I don't like it.
Yeah. Still moving. So yeah, it's definitely parts of it taste rare and even raw. Like they have that like raw beef texture, but in a way, I don't know how to explain it. Like it's almost rare in like a pleasant way. Like you can really almost taste the way like the beef is supposed to taste, like unadulterated. I don't know if that makes any sense. And because of that, the lack of a fancier bun, I think also does a lot for it as well. So that, you know, you're not as distracted by like the flavor of like a buttery bun. You know how some places nowadays use like brioche buns and things like that? But you're not really as distracted by that, and you can really focus on the meat. And just look at all that delicious fresh beef juice that soaks into the bun. But like the perfect amount, you know, they toasted the bun so it doesn't absorb too much of the juice. So you get that juiciness, but without it offsetting the crunchiness. Now, lots of people say that this is the best burger. Like lots of people say that this is their favorite. I guess I'll be honest, I wouldn't say this is my favorite. I enjoy it. I think it's very special, but I do think it's a little on the rare end for me. It's a little raw. For a burger, I usually prefer more medium, so I find this to be a little bit more on like when it has that raw sensation, it almost tastes a little bit wet and squishy. It's not my personal favorite, I would say. I think some things could potentially kind of take this over the edge a little bit. Like I think even though they did season it, I think they could stand to season it a little bit more. I understand that this is a historical restaurant and it's very, you know, they're following tradition and history, but I think if they were to upgrade it or update it, I think more salt, maybe some more garlic powder or something like that, I think would really take this over the top. But it does taste a bit one-dimensional for me, at least a hamburger. But that was the hamburger. It does seem like the cheeseburger is more popular. So let's try one of those and see if the cheeseburger lives up to all the Louis Lunch hype. Now, the cheeseburger is also rare, but it's got the extra dimension of a little cheese sauce at the bottom, and actually a tomato. Like, I think the tomato was not added to the hamburger. I think they might have gotten my order mixed up with another one that was tomato-free. But that's okay. I don't usually like tomato on a burger, but I'll make an exception for anything.
We're actually on our way out. Sorry, excuse me.
Oh, whoa. Honestly, you gotta get the cheeseburger, because the cheeseburger, like that cheese sauce makes all the difference. It may not seem like a big difference, but the addition of that thin layer of cheese sauce really adds a whole nother dimension. Like if you get the hamburger, like just a hamburger, especially since there was no tomato on this one, just a hamburger, you mostly focus on the rarer, like kind of raw meat, and it can be very hit or miss, and it can taste more one-dimensional. But with the addition of the cheese, it really adds like a whole new like layer of flavor. Like it adds more savory flavor from the cheese, more savory wetness. So it's not like you're only focusing on like the meat itself, and also the tomato that was included this time. Like it adds like a nice freshness, like a nice garden salad sort of taste to this burger. So you get that fresh beef, the more rare beef added with some savory cheese, a delicious crunch from the onion, and some sweetness and wetness from the fresh tomato. Now, obviously, I think everyone's gonna have a different palate. Like me personally, I tend to prefer a burger that's a little bit more advanced than this. So I definitely can see how this could be the first ever burger, because it is definitely on the more simple side, like just a hamburger steak stuck between bread and some vegetables. But if you like things that are more simple, you know, maybe more healthy even, and more focusing on the freshness of the food, like what people kind of say In-N-Out is. Like people say that like the reason why they like In-N-Out is because of its freshness rather than its like complexity of flavor. But if that's your thing, you're gonna like this. Although the price is a bit high. I think this was like $8 each, so I'm not sure if this is necessarily worth $8, like maybe less because the portion size is quite small, but it is worth trying, I think, especially if you're a burger fan, to see what the first ever burger tasted like. Not bad. We're gonna finish this, then share some final thoughts outside. Okay guys, so we just finished eating at Lewis Lunch and wanted to share my final thoughts before we hit the road. You know, explore New Haven a bit, see Yale, and maybe try some famous New Haven pizza joints. So this might just be my take, but I felt like Lewis Lunch was good. Like, it was definitely a cool experience. It was nice to experience a bit of history and to really see like what the potentially first ever burger was like. Like pretty much just hamburger steak between just plain bread and some fresh vegetables. Really, really cool for this blast to the past like experience. And I really like the whole 1800s tavern pub feel to it. And it did kind of have like a bit of a community feel to it. Like I was wondering if it was gonna be a lot of tourists. And while it's possible many of those people were tourists, I kind of got the feeling that a lot of them were locals. Maybe a lot of Yale students, I kind of got the feeling, because I think Yale is pretty much just down the street. But to be honest, for me, like while there were things I liked about Lewis Lunch, I felt like it was a okay burger, but it wasn't like a spectacular one. I feel like there's definitely other ones that I prefer. It was historical, but it also kind of tasted older, if that made sense, and not necessarily always in a good way. Like it tasted kind of dated almost. On one hand, it was good that the plain bread kind of highlighted the fresh veggies and the taste of the patty, but on the other hand, I felt like the bread was a little bit too plain. Like it was pretty much just sliced bread that you can get from the grocery store. Fresh veggies are great, but I mean, anyone can get fresh veggies, right? I mean, just go to like Wegmans and buy some produce there and just chop them the same day. The meat itself, well, the first thing I want to say is that despite having an affinity for medium rare steaks, I don't really prefer medium rare when it comes to burgers. I feel like for burgers, at least for me, I'm much more of a medium guy. I like it to have that balance between juiciness and firmness. For me, for a burger, I found it to be a little bit too rare, and for me, like, to be honest, I didn't actually finish the hamburger because a lot of my hamburger was not even medium rare. A lot of it was just flat out raw. Now, the cheeseburger was much better. Like, the addition of the cheese sauce, you know, the cheeseburger did kind of redeem the experience, but it was good, but I'm not sure it was, like, spectacular, and with how long it took to get the food, like, basically 40 minutes, I'm not sure it was really worth the wait to try it as potentially the first ever burger to see what burgers were like in the 1890s. I think it was worth it. Like, it was worth waiting and experiencing the whole thing, but I don't think I would ever go back. And I'm not saying that like, oh, it was so bad I will never go back. I just meant that like the waiting, the burger itself being good but not spectacular, and also it was not really that cheap. I mean, $8 I know for a burger is not really that expensive compared to most burgers nowadays, but for the size of the thing, it was just quite small, you know? I mean, I don't think $8 was a fair price. It was basically like a slightly bigger slider, so I would say maybe like even like $5 would be more reasonable. Perhaps if I didn't have to wait 40 minutes, perhaps if it was more like 10 minutes, maybe I would feel differently, but I mean, it is what it is. Cooking it with open flame as opposed to like a griddle or something, it's gonna take longer to cook, so that's probably why they can't offer doneness higher than medium rare, or just rare in this case, because otherwise you're going to be waiting for like an hour. Judged purely based on the taste of the burger and the fact that you had to wait so long for it and all the hype associated, I would say overrated and overhyped, at least at this stage of its history. But I can't take away the amazing history of the place, and if it really indeed is the first ever hamburger ever, I'm glad I got to try it, and it was definitely worth the trip, at least for that. But anyways, guys, that's gonna be it for this video. You know, I get a feeling that some people are gonna disagree with this opinion because the people in the restaurant seem to really enjoy it. So if you've had Lewis Lunch before, if you're a New Haven resident or native, if you go to Yale and you frequent that spot, let me know what you think of Lewis Lunch in the comments, because great minds eat alike. Time to stretch my legs a little bit. So, if you liked my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. That way you stay up to date whenever I post another video. Until next time, I'll see you later.